Mongols built the largest land empire in human history, 9 million square miles, a quarter of the world's population under one banner. And when they won, they didn't just celebrate. They performed rituals, ceremonies, structured, deliberate acts that turned every victory into something you could feel from 100 miles away. Some of it was spiritual, some of it was strategic, all of it was terrifying. These are the 20 most disturbing rituals the Mongols performed after victory. Let's start with number 20. Number 20, the loot ceremony. Every soldier knew the rule before the battle started. Touch nothing until the Khan says so. Under Genghis Khan's Yasa legal code, his iron law, any warrior who grabbed loot before the official ceremony was executed on the spot. No argument, no second chance. When the fighting stopped, generals lined everything up. Gold, silk, horses, weapons, livestock. The Khan picked first, then his sons, then generals, then commanders, then regular soldiers. Even the families of men who died in battle got their cut. On paper, almost fair. Here's what they don't tell you. Women and children from the conquered city were lined up in that same inventory, right next to the gold, distributed the same way. When the Mongols sacked Zhongdu in 1215, the Jin dynasty capital, they stripped it so completely that the fires from the destruction burned for a full month. The loot ceremony was the orderly part, the part with rules. What came next had rules too, just different ones. Number 19, the prayer to Tengri. Before the empire, before the conquests, before any of this, there was Tengri, the eternal blue sky, the Mongol god who lived above everything, watched everything, and chose who deserved to rule. After every victory, the Khan had a debt to pay. He would find the highest ground nearby, remove his hat, drape his belt around his neck, a gesture of humility, like a servant before a master. Then he knelt and bowed 9 times toward the sky. Mare's milk poured onto the earth. Sometimes prayers went on for days. But here's what made this more than a ceremony. The Mongols genuinely believed Tengri had personally chosen them to rule every human being on earth. All of it. Every nation, every city, every person alive. The sky had spoken. The conquests were not aggression. They were God's will being carried out, which meant anyone who resisted wasn't just fighting an army. They were fighting heaven itself. Before launching his war against China in 1211, Genghis Khan spent 3 days alone on a mountain, fasting, praying. When he came down, his commanders said he looked like a different man. 3 months later, northern China was on fire. Number 18, the Walking Dead shields. You survived the massacre. Your city is ash behind you. Your neighbors are dead, and you're still alive, which, for about 3 days, felt like a miracle. Then a Mongol soldier grabbed you by the arm and put you at the front of the column, facing the next city's walls. This was standard practice during the conquest of the Khwarezmian Empire, 1219 to 1221. Survivors from fallen cities were marched in front of the advancing army toward the next target. When the defenders on the walls fired arrows, they hit their own people first: mothers, farmers, elderly men who'd done nothing but survive. Persian historian Juvayni described prisoner columns stretching for miles. If you slowed down, you died. If you tried to run, you died. If the city ahead surrendered quickly enough, maybe you lived a little longer. Maybe. The Mongols understood something brutally simple. The most demoralizing weapon you can use against a city is the faces of the people that city already failed to protect, and they used it every time. Number 17, the kill quota. When the Mongols took a city, the killing didn't happen in the chaos of battle. It happened after, organized, assigned, documented. At Urgench in 1221, each warrior in an army of roughly 20,000 was given a specific number, 24 civilians to execute, individually, by hand. Do the math. That's close to 480,000 people killed after the battle was already won. The bodies were counted. Numbers reported back to generals. Soldiers who didn't reach their quota faced punishment. This wasn't anger. It wasn't bloodlust. It was policy. A calculated system designed to make sure no city ever had enough survivors left to organize a rebellion. The coldest part? Once the numbers were in, the commanders packed up and left. Next city, same system, different names on the list. Number 16, molten silver in the eyes. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent a trade caravan to the Khwarezmian Empire, 450 merchants, goods worth a fortune, a chance at peace. The governor of Otrar, a man named Inalchuk, had every single one of them killed and took their goods for himself. The Khan sent an envoy to demand justice. Inalchuk killed him too. For the Mongols, killing an ambassador was the worst crime that existed, not because of politics, because of something deeper, the belief that a messenger's life was sacred, that without protected communication, civilization itself would break down. They called it the Great Principle. When Otrar finally fell in 1220, Inalchuk was taken alive, saved for last. Persian sources recorded what happened next. They held him down and put molten silver into his eyes and ears. The message moved faster than any army. It didn't need to be announced. Word just traveled, city by city, court by court. Kill our messenger and we will make your death something people are still whispering about 800 years from now. 800 years later, here we are, still whispering about it. Number 15. The Carpet Crush. Noble blood could not touch the ground. This wasn't just tradition, it was spiritual law. Spilling royal blood onto the earth would disturb the spirits and bring a curse down on the entire empire. So when the Mongols needed to kill a king, they had to get creative. After Baghdad fell in 1258, Hulagu Khan captured the last Abbasid caliph, al-Mustasim, the most powerful religious figure in the Islamic world, the spiritual leader of hundreds of millions of people. They rolled him up in a carpet, then Mongol horses trampled over it until he was dead. Some accounts say soldiers beat him through the carpet with their fists. The details vary. The outcome doesn't. No blood touched the ground. The spirits were undisturbed. The highest-ranking religious leader in the medieval Islamic world died wrapped up like furniture being moved to a storage room. The Mongols considered this respectful. Sit with that for a second. This was them being polite. Number 14. The Feast on Living Men. Now you have the full picture. The Battle of the Kalka River, 1223. Generals Subutai and Jebi had just destroyed a Russian force of 80,000 with 20,000 Mongol riders. Several Russian princes survived, including Mstislav of Kiev. The Mongols laid them face down on the ground, stacked heavy wooden boards across their bodies, sat down on top, and ate dinner. No royal blood would touch the ground. The boards did the killing. The generals just happened to need a flat surface for their celebration. The feast lasted hours. The screaming didn't last that long. Multiple historians recorded this event. It is not a legend. It is not an exaggeration. It happened exactly this way. And in the Mongol world, it wasn't even considered particularly unusual. It was the respectful option, because some entries on this list, they didn't bother being respectful at all. Number 13. The Skull Pyramids. During the siege of Nishapur in 1221, a single arrow fired from the city walls killed Tokuchar, Genghis Khan's son-in-law. When his wife, the Khan's own daughter, received the news, she made one request: everything, every person, every animal, every living thing inside those walls. The Mongols delivered. Persian historian Rashid al-Din put the death toll at over 1 million. Modern estimates are lower, but the scale wasn't the point. The point was that when the killing stopped, the heads were separated. Men in one pile, women in another, children in a third, then stacked into pyramids outside the city gates, visible from miles away, left standing for months so that every traveler, every merchant, every scout from the next city on the list could see them and understand exactly what their choices were. Timur, Tamerlane, the Mongol successor, turned this into an art form. After sacking Baghdad in 1401, he built 120 skull towers from 90,000 heads. At Isfahan in 1387, 70,000 people became 35 pyramids. These weren't acts of rage. They were announcements. Number 12. Sewing a person shut. When the Mongols needed someone dead but couldn't spill their blood, they improvised. Fatima was a high-ranking advisor to Toragain Khatun, the woman who ruled the empire after Ogadai Khan died. When Toragain's own son turned on her, Fatima became the target. After days of interrogation and beatings, the sentence was carried out. They sewed every opening in her body shut. Every one. Then wrapped her in layers of felt so nothing could escape, and threw her, still alive, into a river. The logic was precise. By sealing the body completely, no blood would touch the water, no fluid would touch the earth. The spirits would not be disturbed. The victim would simply disappear. No trace, no pollution, no cosmic consequence. The cruelty wasn't the point. The cruelty was just the method. The point was spiritual cleanliness. That distinction is what makes this one linger. Number 11. The Artisan Kidnapping. Not everyone died after a Mongol victory. Before any massacre began, officers moved through the population with a list. Engineers, blacksmiths, physicians, weavers, Mathematicians, siege builders, anyone with a skill the empire could use was pulled out of the line, while the people around them were executed. Then the march began. Thousands of miles, often in chains. Persian engineers sent to China, Chinese siege builders sent to Persia, Korean craftsmen sent to the Mongolian steppe. The skills went wherever the Khan pointed, and the people carrying them had no say in any of it. Think about what that moment felt like. Your city is burning, your family is dead in the street behind you, and a Mongol officer is pulling you out of the group and telling you that you're going to live, because you know how to build things. The things you build will destroy cities just like yours. Many never saw home again. Some died on the march. The ones who made it spent the rest of their lives building an empire that had killed everything they loved, and they had no choice. Number 10. The 3-day return. The battle was done. The Mongols rode away, and if you were hiding in a well, a cellar, under a collapsed roof, you heard the hoofbeats fade, and you waited, and when it was quiet long enough, you crawled out. That was the mistake. 3 days later, they came back. Every person who had emerged from hiding was found and killed. At Merv in 1221, Rashid al-Din recorded more than 700,000 dead in the initial assault. The 3-day return added thousands more. This wasn't coincidence. It wasn't a patrol that stumbled on survivors. It was designed. The Mongols understood human behavior with a precision that most modern armies still study. They knew people would hide. They knew fear would keep them down for exactly so long. They knew the silence would eventually feel safe enough to come out, and they planned their return around it. There was no outsmarting this army. Every move had already been accounted for. Number 9. The human sorting line. After the killing stopped, the organizing began. Every surviving person in a conquered city went through what the Mongols ran like a processing system. Strong men, forced labor, skilled workers, separated and transported. Young women, distributed among warriors and commanders as part of the official spoils. Children, sometimes taken from parents entirely and raised inside Mongol families, fed Mongol food, given Mongol names, until they forgot they had ever been anything else. Captured enemy soldiers got the worst assignment. They marched at the front of the next battle, forced to fight against the people they grew up with, against their own cities. Refuse, and you die on the spot. Comply, and you help conquer your neighbors. Then the neighbors next to them. The kingdom of Goryeo, modern-day Korea, was forced during its decades of tribute to hand over 10,000 otter skins, 20,000 horses, 10,000 bolts of silk, and thousands of children and craftsmen as slaves. Not once, repeatedly. Every collection cycle, the same demand. The Mongols didn't just take resources, they took futures. Number 8. The Blood Oath Ceremony. After a major victory, the generals gathered, not to celebrate, to bind. Fermented mare's milk, kumis, poured onto the earth while oaths were spoken aloud. In the deeper version, the Anda ceremony, warriors cut their palms open, mixed their blood with the milk, and drank it together. Brotherhood sealed in blood and alcohol, witnessed by the sky. Genghis Khan had performed this exact ceremony with his childhood friend Jamuka, years before they became each other's greatest enemies. He knew what it meant. He knew what breaking it cost. That's why he made his generals do it after every major win. The sacred number 9 ran through everything. 9 oaths spoken, 9 cups offered. In Mongol belief, 9 represented the highest form of spiritual completion. You didn't just swear loyalty, you swore it 9 times in blood with the sky as your witness. And if you broke it, the sky would notice. That wasn't a metaphor. They believed it completely, which is exactly what made it work. Number 7. Catapulting plague corpses. 1346. A Mongol army under Johnny Beg is camped outside Kaffa, a fortified Genoese trading port on the Black Sea. The walls are holding. The siege is going nowhere. Then the Black Plague tears through the Mongol camp. Soldiers start dying faster than they can be replaced. The siege is failing. The army is collapsing from the inside. Someone made a decision. Load the dead onto the catapults. Rotting, plague-infected corpses rained over the walls of Kaffa. The disease spread through the trapped population almost immediately. When Genoese traders eventually fled by ship, they carried the infection with them. To Constantinople, to Sicily, to Italy, to the rest of Europe. The Black Death killed between 75 and 200 million people. A third of Europe was gone. Would the plague have reached Europe eventually through trade routes? Probably. Maybe. Historians still argue about it. But the deliberate decision to load diseased bodies onto siege weapons and fire them over a city wall That specific choice, made by a Mongol commander in a failing siege in 1346, might be the single deadliest post-battle decision in the history of warfare. One call, hundreds of millions of consequences. Number 6. The River of Ink. When Hulagu Khan took Baghdad in 1258, between 200,000 and 800,000 people died in 7 days. But that's not the part historians still mourn. The House of Wisdom was the greatest library on earth. Centuries of accumulated knowledge, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, literature. Works from Greek, Persian, Indian, and Arab scholars that existed nowhere else. Translations of texts that had already been lost everywhere else in the world. Irreplaceable, singular. The Mongols threw all of it into the Tigris River. Eyewitnesses said the water ran black with ink for days. Then it cleared, and what had taken 800 years to build was just gone. You can rebuild a city. Given enough time, enough people, enough will, the walls go up again, the streets fill, the market returns. You cannot rebuild what was in that library. Baghdad had been the intellectual capital of the world. After February 1258, it was ash and empty shelves and a river that had briefly turned black. Some losses don't have a number attached. Number 5. Drowning the land. This one doesn't look like violence. It looks like infrastructure. That's what makes it the most devastating entry on this list by body count. The irrigation systems that fed Mesopotamia and Central Asia had been built and maintained since the time of ancient Sumer. Underground channels called qanats, surface canals. An engineering network thousands of years old that turned desert into farmland and kept millions of people alive. After the Mongol conquests, those networks were systematically destroyed, canals broken, qanats collapsed, no one left alive with the knowledge or the numbers to repair them. The population of Persia reportedly fell from 2.5 million to 250,000, a drop of 90% from a combination of massacre and the famine that followed when the land stopped producing. Baghdad's irrigation system did not fully recover until the 20th century. That's 700 years. The Mongols made decisions in the 1200s that shaped what that land could grow, and therefore who could live there, all the way to the 1900s. They didn't just kill people, they killed the earth that fed them. And the earth took 7 centuries to recover. Number 4. The linchpin test. After Genghis Khan crushed the Tatar tribes, the people who had poisoned his father, a council was called. What do we do with the survivors? The answer came back calm and deliberate. No rage in it, no emotion. Every Tatar male would stand next to the linchpin of a cartwheel, a pin that sits roughly at the height of a 3-year-old child. Anyone taller, executed. Anyone shorter, spared, enslaved, distributed among Mongol families. This wasn't decided in the chaos of battle. It was decided days after, in a council, by men sitting in a circle, thinking it through. The boys who survived grew up speaking Mongol, eating Mongol food, fighting in Mongol armies. Within a single generation, the Tatar identity was gone, not just defeated, erased, absorbed into the people who had killed their fathers. An entire civilization wiped from history, not through a single massacre, through a measurement. Number 3. The Mongol Declaration. The Mongols offered every city the same choice: surrender and live, resist and die. But there was a third category, a designation so feared that just hearing it attached to your city's name meant something beyond defeat. Something final. Mongol, bad city. Once that label was applied, the rules changed entirely. No mercy, no negotiations, no survivors, not even looting, because the Mongols wanted nothing from this place to survive. No object, no person, no memory. At Bamyan in 1221, a Mongol prince was killed during the siege. Genghis Khan declared it Mongol. Every living creature inside the walls was killed. Soldiers, civilians, livestock, dogs, birds. He forbade his own soldiers from taking plunder. He reportedly ordered that no person ever live on that ground again. The ruins of Bamyan sat empty for generations. The Mongols had a formal, named, codified process for total annihilation. It wasn't rage, it wasn't chaos, it was policy. With a title, with procedures, with rules about what his own army was and wasn't allowed to take. Chinese census records show the population of China fell from 120 million before the Mongol invasion to roughly 60 million after, half. That is the scale of what Mongol meant at empire level. Number 2. The kill quota at Nishapur, and what his daughter asked for. We talked about Nishapur, the single arrow, the son-in-law dead, the Khan's daughter arriving at the ruins. What we didn't tell you was the specific request she made. She didn't ask for the soldiers to be punished. She didn't ask for the city to be burned or looted or enslaved. She asked that not one living thing remain. Not a person, not a dog, not a cat, not a bird in a cage, nothing that breathed. And then she asked for the heads to be men in one pile, women in another, children in a third, and stacked. A grieving woman standing in the ruins of the city that killed her husband, making a precise, organized, categorized request for what she wanted done to every living thing inside those walls. The Mongols fulfilled it completely. That combination, the personal grief and the bureaucratic precision of the response, is what separates this from every other entry on this list. Most of what's here was policy. This was personal. And somehow the personal version was more organized than the policy. That says something about the Mongol Empire that no statistics can fully capture. Number 1. The Secret Burial. Genghis Khan died in 1227. He had conquered 9 million square miles. He ruled over an estimated quarter of every human being alive. He had reshaped the map of the world more completely than any person before or since, and his followers made sure no one would ever find him. A group of soldiers carried his body back across the Mongolian steppe. Every person they passed on the journey was killed. Merchant caravans, nomadic families, travelers who had nothing to do with any of it. Anyone who saw the funeral procession, for any reason, died. When they reached the burial site, the soldiers who dug the grave were executed by a second group. That second group was executed by a third. Then horses were stampeded over the ground until no trace of disturbed earth remained. Some accounts say a river was diverted to flow directly over the site. Almost 800 years have passed. Expeditions with satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar have searched. The Mongolian government has restricted access to large sections of the likely burial area. Researchers have spent careers looking. Nobody has found it. Here's the last detail, the one that reframes everything. The Mongol conquests killed so many people and emptied so much land that forests grew back across regions that had been farmed and populated for centuries. A Carnegie Institution study calculated that this regrowth pulled approximately 700 million tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. The Mongol Empire left a measurable mark on the planet's climate, and then the man who built it vanished, completely, deliberately. As finally as any of the cities he erased, he destroyed civilizations across 2 continents. He reshaped the world map. He changed the planet's atmosphere, and his grave is still out there somewhere, under the grass. Unmarked, undisturbed, hidden the way he wanted. That might be the most Mongol thing of all.